We invest in a lot of coaching early on in our childhood development. Teachers or coaches, musical instruments, sports, all through our lives until we get a career, and then we don't need coaches anymore. We might have a mentor. We may have somebody like a boss, somebody that shows us how to do certain things, but we don't have coaching anymore. And I don't know why. Professional athletes are the only ones that I really think are getting consistent daily by the hour coaching. Think of how many times a professional athlete is getting coached a day. It is just like by the end of the year, it's thousands of coaching touch points. And we as professionals in our careers of like corporate life or whatever we're doing, we don't get that. And we expect to be awesome. It's not going to happen.
Quickly though, before this episode starts, I've got a 10-second favor that I'd like to ask you. The majority of people watching this podcast haven't yet hit the follow button. I can't tell you how much it helps. The show gets bigger, which means we can increase our production and also allows us to bring in some of the best guests that you want to see while allowing us to continue to do the thing that we love. Thank you so much for your time. Skot, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. This is a treat. My Australian culture bubble just exploded now that I've been here with you. So it's gonna be awesome.
Well, I mean, there's only about 20 of us, so you'll meet the whole team.
And you all do you all live in the desert or do you all live on the beach? I can't remember.
We live in the small strip of beach. And then the rest is desert.
Is that what it is? Okay. I just didn't know.
Much.
You vacation in the desert? Is that what you do because you live on the beach?
No one goes near the desert. The desert vacationing isn't like America. No one's going to the desert for fun.
There's no Airbnbs blowing up in the desert right now. Like
no, not that I know of.
Happening. No. Okay.
No,
okay. I'm going to start that. You and me, we're going to start that. It's a niche there.
Desert Airbnb. Yeah, 100%.
There's a niche.
It's very hot and it's not like Palm Beach, trust me. It's not.
No. Okay.
No.
Okay. Because I did think it was that. I was like Australian desert, Palm Beach. There's probably something there.
Nah, it's flat and arid from what I know. But I haven't been. Well, that probably says enough.
Okay. Fair.
I'd rather spend my time overseas. Yeah, it's weird when you just don't go to different countries. We don't go to your own country, but you travel around the world.
Yeah. Yeah. You should probably stay in your own country at some point. There's probably some cool stuff there.
I think there is, but it's just so much more fun to just go somewhere else. I don't know.
That's true.
So I'd love to get into the first question with you. So if you give us an elevator pitch of who you are, what you do and how you're contributing to the world, how would that sound?
Usually when I give my elevator pitch, I say, hey, Adam, when's the last time you had a misunderstanding, like with somebody? Did you like conflict or misunderstanding with somebody?
All too often.
So, like, what happened? Tell me. What? Just Ellen. You don't have to give me names. Don't burn anybody on the show. Give me a name. I mean, no, don't give me a name. Sorry, crap. Don't. I just slipped in there. Don't give me a name. What happened?
Generally, it's text communications that are problematic, but my tone in my head is not that, and then it's damage control over the phone is my general problem.
I help fix those.
How?
Not your texting problems. I can't fix that.
Oh.
But your ability to communicate the thoughts in your head effectively, to make sure people understand them. I help make sense of complex communication problems like that, and I allow people to be who they were designed to be. So I want you to own it. I want you to be that person. And I want you to understand who you are first. And then, and only then, will you be able to truly, what I say, become unlocked, right? Mm-hmm. No more you fit into this cage of what people think you should be or ought to be. But it's about how do you break free from that and just really be able just to own it.
And how has that manifested in your career and life?
It was very not intentional earlier on in my career. It was just grinding and doing my own thing and being who I wanted to be. And since an early age, it was always kind of my unique spin on everything. Not really understanding that made me very open to different ideas, because I was always seeking different ideas so that I could share different ideas. And for a long time, that was labeled as fence sitting. It was labeled as Skot can't make a decision. And when Skot does make a decision, it's so wishy-washy. We don't really understand what he's talking about. And I always looked at that as like, that's the reason why my business isn't doing as good as I thought, or that's the reason why I struggle in this relationship, or that's the reason why people label me wrong, which may be true. I'm sure it contributes. But when I finally realized that those things were what made me better, made me who I was, is when I truly like felt that unlocking. Like I felt like, you know what? I am a fence sitter. You know how awesome that is? The fact that I see your point of view and your point of view, and I can argue both sides and also bring the gold for both sides and bring a more strategic, rounded idea to what this thing really is. Like that served me well. And I think that if I can do that for myself, I want to do that for other people.
Brilliant. So basically what you're saying is you've got range. Have you read the book?
No.
Range? There's a book about exactly this. So the idea is that the future is going to be to the generalists, and the specific deep tasks are going to be controlled and handled by AI more and more and more. And it's the people who can synthesize information across a vast variety of mediums are the ones who are going to have a lot of impact, because you can take ideas and concepts from lots of different things and put them into something to solve a problem uniquely. So it sounds like you were widely exploring the world and didn't really know your place, and you've slowly found that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I think it's been a lot of exploration. Sometimes too much exploration I just spent a lot of time exploring. There's those of us that are like, I'm going to gather some more research. I'm going to do a little more digging. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more. And then it's like, oh, wait, deadline's tomorrow? Oh, whoa, my gosh, I guess we better make a decision, So there's been a little bit of that.
So there's these 4 a.m. deep dives on YouTube, and you're in this really weird rabbit hole of conspiracy theories.
It is. I've gone way into the rabbit hole, and I sit there and go, oh gosh, in the Myers-Briggs world, MBTI, they call it that perceiver type function of, exploration of, thinking out of the box, of kind of diving into different ideas, which there's a lot of value there. About half the population thinks that way, as opposed to the judging type population that is very structured and linear and very like follow the plan, finish things about 2 weeks in advance, and it's those types. Now I again straddle the fence a bit with both of those personalities and those ideas. I was raised by a bunch of people and parents and in my environment that were very structured in their thinking. So that's been embedded in me. I'm an entrepreneur. I have to have a lot of that in there too. So it's more of a learned thing, but also my nurture taught that to me. But my nature has been more exploratory. So I've always been able to bring that into what I do. So it's interesting.
The open-mindedness, I feel I have a similar mentality for the world, and I resonate with what you were saying there. And I've recently have come to this conclusion that I might have ADHD, and I'm wondering if it all ties in together. That just
maybe,
yeah,
maybe it's so you've not been diagnosed. Yeah,
it's in the process. So
it is okay.
Yeah.
So there's definitely something to explore there, and how that impacts the way you communicate is going to be, so you've got your wiring, and then you've got how you were raised, and then you've got some of the choices that you make that really make up how we communicate. And you layer on top of that a diagnosis of like ADHD or anxiety or depression or anything like that anybody else has. And it does interesting things to those types of communication styles. And that's why it's so important for people to understand that base communication style, and then understand the complexities of those other things that layer on top of that does that bring it out more? Does it suppress it? What are the ideas there that play out in your life? I think it's really important for you to understand.
So I'll come back to that, but how did you find your way as with all of these different kind of interests? Like, how did you get to a point where you go, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to contribute to the world. When did it all kind of come together?
I don't know, Adam. I don't know. Since I got on this show, since I got here today with you.
You're still figuring it out.
I feel that, and I feel like there's a lot of individuals this way. So I'm going to speak this, maybe it'll resonate with some people, is that earlier on in my career, and I do believe it's like this with a lot of generations and the way we are as human beings as we go throughout life, is that early on, it was a lot about me, my job, my career, my marriage, my life, my new house, my bills. Like, it was all survival. It was building my career, my identity, who was I, my place in the world. As a young graphic designer, going to Chicago, working at this agency, was that a next award book? What could I see my name in that award book? It was like recognition, validation for who I was and what I did. And that was cool for me. That was like, look at this. Everybody, you see me in this award book? Nobody else sees it, but that's okay. I see it. My parents saw it. My wife saw it. It was all good. And it was that recognition, and it was that validation, and it was really great, and it felt awesome. And then I hit like my mid-career crisis. It was like 40, 45-ish, 40, I guess. And I was like, I'm getting grayer hair, and I don't know, like, why am I doing this stuff? Why? I mean, I love design work. I love the ability to solve problems using visual communication and synthesizing what people are saying down to the core element to where they go, yes, you get us. Thank you for that. That brings so much clarity. So I love that aspect of design work. And then making it beautiful is just the cherry on top. And then at some point I was like, but it seems so temporary to me. Like, it was like, we designed this thing, and then in 4 or 5 years, it might be gone. And nobody knew anything about it. Nobody cared about it. I even may look at it and go, ooh, like, I did that? That's like,
or
looks
it
so
might be
dated.
sold for $800 million.
Thanks, man. Thanks for the reminder. Yes. By the way, anybody, if you design a logo for a company, for some startup, some person getting their MBA, make sure you take a percentage of the company, not just $350. And you might make millions later on. Just a tip for you young designers out there. Okay.
I love that.
So it's just this idea of like, then I came in accidentally to what I'm doing now. I was speaking at an event, and I was speaking on some social media strategy work, and not implementation, but the strategy side of things. And there was somebody else there who was speaking on culture development and leadership inside of your business. And he came up to me afterwards and was like, hey, I've got this thing. I need some brand work done for this new product I'm launching. And he's like, I'll trade you services for, you can join this leadership cohort I'm doing. It's a year-long thing, and I'll trade you for that. And I was like, all right, okay. I guess I'll do that. So he did not blow up to be a multi-million-dollar company, by the way.
Yes. So, I mean, it can always happen.
It's fine. It can always happen. Dang it. I should have taken a percentage. Oh man, I messed up again. So I'm going in there, and I'm thinking leadership. Like, I run a design agency. We're cool. Like, I don't need that. People like me. I like them. We get along. My employees cry when they have to leave and go on and do a new job, and I cry, and we all hug, and like, it's all fine. I don't need this culture leadership development stuff. I'm a good person, but I was like, sure, I'll do it anyway. So I go in, month 1.5. I go, what am I experiencing here? This is blowing my mind. I said, oh my gosh, I am a horrible communicator. And I was like, I communicate for a living. Like, that's what I do for my job. And yet I don't communicate clearly or effectively with my people, which leaves them like hanging out there wondering what's going on with me. They're going, what's Skot talking about? Or are we supposed to be working on this? Or I don't know. We love Skot. Skot's a great guy, but we don't really know what's going on. We're kind of like, I was abdicating them at times because I was working on my own personal brand and my speaking business. And, there's all this stuff and I just wasn't communicating well. Well, that's when like this light switch went off. And I was like, I have spent so much time helping companies communicate effectively externally, but I've never really worked with them communicating internally. If I can do that, I'm not only going to transfer them for the time being, but when they go on to the next job, if I instill a culture within a company that is long lasting, that's changing lives. It's not just there for the moment. It's long lasting, life changing elements. And so that was when my moment happened. I was like, there it is. So that's what I do now. As part of my transition from design work, it was like 95% design, 5% culture. Now it's totally switched.
And how do you do that? So awesome. You have a blog, you write, you've got a book, Unlocked is your new book that's coming out. You've got speaking gigs, you do one-on-ones. Is there anything else I've missed?
Yeah, I do a lot of team development and one-on-one development. So I've got small teams I'll coach. So I've got several of those within companies that I'll work with. One-on-one coaching is definitely part of what I'll do as well with executives, with leaders that are, the last one I was just coaching was a 28-year-old project manager. So it's not executive C-suite stuff all the time. I've got a few of those, but it's really like people leaders, people that a company sees potential in. They go, we want this person to develop. We see potential in them. Skot, please work with this person to be who they need to be for the future. Like help unlock them because there's so much potential there. So there's that. There's the book podcast called Unlocked again. So keep it on brand there.
I'm noticing a theme here.
Little bit of a theme. I know I'm like totally rocking this thing. And so there's that. And yeah, public speaking is something I love to do. So I go out and do quite a bit of that, but that's mostly what I'm doing now. This morning I did a brand foundation workshop. I call it Brand Foundation, which is mission, vision, values, purpose work, and work with companies on that. So doing a lot of that as well. So it's fun. I love it.
Brilliant. I want to loop back quickly. You mentioned you got your first speaking gig. How did you get your first speaking gig? How did that happen?
I went to my local chamber of commerce and I said, hey, I could do some speaking stuff. And they said, okay. And so I spoke for 15 minutes about how all of these small business owners that just want a logo and a social media, Facebook page, and a quick website are thinking way too tactically and not strategically enough. So I'm always like, hey, big picture people, tactics before strategy is that thing that happens before the defeat is what we say, right? Like if you're thinking tactically, you're thinking too reactively and you're thinking too temporarily. So that is something that will destroy you in the long run. If you are a business owner, like thinking strategically long-term, you've got to be able to understand the war you're fighting before you figure out which battles you're going to fight.
So maybe it's worth elaborating a bit further for the listeners. So what kind of thought process would be somebody thinking strategically versus what would the thought process be of someone thinking tactically?
Strategically is thinking a little bit more about the intangible stuff, not the sexy visual stuff. Everybody wants the sexual visual stuff because it's sexy and it's visual. And I can go, ooh, I like that font, or, oh, I like that website, or, oh, I like that. But then what happens is that people pump that stuff out because they know they need it really quick and they want to launch something and they just want to get going and sell things. And I go, okay, but you're going to come back to me in about 3 or 4 years and go, gosh, Skot, we hate our logo. And I would go, yeah, it's pretty bad. And they're going to go, I know, but it's on all of our stuff and all of our koozies we give away at trade show events and on our signage and all. And it's going to cost so much money to redo it. I'm like, yeah, it is. They go, and it doesn't really even represent who we are. And I'm like, it doesn't. And so it's that whole conversation that we need to have beforehand that says, why are you even doing this? Like, what is the impact you're going to have by doing what you're doing? How are you going to hire people that believe what you believe if you don't even know what you believe? So that is what it's about. How do we understand the foundational elements of what we are, who we're for, what we do? Because yeah, we may sell this widget day one, but in 5-10 years, we may be selling something completely different. And you got to make sure that it is true and authentic to who you are.
So with that in mind, I mean, from my experience, I'm definitely, to date, I've been quite tactical and not as strategic. So it's an interesting one. But I've a lot of those questions seem overwhelming and expensive when you've just started and you don't really know if this is going to even work. And you're just like, I just need to get into it.
I know. I feel you, man. So here's the thing. I'm not saying it can't work accidentally. There are all types of things that happen accidentally where you're like, oh, that worked out. Oh, I've, launched something and now I have like 10 billion hits. Like, that's cool. That's the exception rather than the rule, for sure. And those are the people that everybody hates, because for 95% of the other population, it's really difficult to get to those things. So really thinking about those things, yes, it sounds expensive. Yes, it sounds like overwhelming. Yeah. And that's why when like the latter part, before I did transition to more of the cultural work, I was really trying to make an effort to help small business owners who didn't have the time or the energy or the funds to think like that. I said, there's got to be a resource for them to be able to do the stuff that Chase Bank and Coca-Cola and all these other companies do, that I need to be able to help them too. So I created online courses and I tried to create package deals and group coaching sessions, and it was somewhat effective. So it was something that I think is valid and something that's needed and something that I think there's an opportunity for. It just depends on how it's executed and how it gets out there. So
how do you communicate that to a company starting up that needs to think a bit more long-term? Like, how are you positioning that, USP on what you're doing and how you're contributing to them?
Well, I think it's keeping it simple. I overcomplicate things very quickly for myself and for others. And I also have a tendency, this is my own tendency of, we always say, know yourself to lead yourself. How do I know myself better so I can lead myself more intentionally? And part of my book is called Know, Love, Lead. It's built into these 3 sections of know yourself well, love who you are and what you bring to the table, and lead yourself intentionally. So by knowing myself, I know that I overcomplicate things. And why do I do that? I do that because I want to feel like what I'm providing is valuable. Integrity is a big thing for me. So I want to make sure that when you pay me, you feel like you're getting your money's worth. I want you to feel like you're getting way more than what you're paying for. And so I overserve and I overcomplicate in order to make it look like you're getting so much. When really what I needed to do in understanding my audience, this was before I knew myself really well, is keeping it simple, especially for somebody who's starting out, especially for somebody who wants to build something from the ground up. It's not overcomplicating it, but get those fundamentals down so that you can launch incrementally into the future, not do everything at once and be like, here you are, now you go. It's like, wow, we just spent a lot of money and a lot of time on something that we don't know what to do with.
Yeah,
so that's a problem.
It's a fine line of being, having all this planned out, but then also being flexible, right?
Yep. Amen. For sure.
So how do you maintain flexibility while also getting those fundamentals right?
Understanding your audience. First, understanding yourself. Again, self-preservation is this concept. that I talk about a lot. And my own self-preservation is what gets in the way of me serving my clients well. My own self-preservation of what am I afraid of losing? What am I trying to hide? Or what am I trying to prove gets in the way of me understanding how they want to be served and how they need to be served. If I'm too concerned about making sure I get this deal, if I'm too concerned about how I'm going to make my mortgage, if I'm too concerned about proving my worth to them, I'm not thinking about them. I'm thinking about me. So if I can shift my thinking around to how do I serve these individuals better, the way they need to be served, I think that that's where the flexibility comes in and adaptability. And this is a leadership principle. This isn't just me as a brand strategist or me as a culture communication expert trying to teach people how to communicate effectively. It's how do I do this as a leader with my people, even as I'm leading them.
That reminded me of, I can't remember what book it is, but there's a key line in it. I think it's How to Win Friends and Influence, or 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of the two is like, think first about others, like understand others before you ask for anything, basically. I'm butchering that completely, but the concept is, there's a very clear line, but yeah, the concept is understand others before you ask for anything whatsoever. And that sounds, I think that's a core tenet that you should apply to things. It was very hard to keep that in your mind when you've got all of these life's challenges, right? Yeah. But it's the most important part, you know?
It is. There's a book called The Go-Giver, and it's really short. It's I actually have a copy of it right here. So short, like little book. It's kind of a fable type book about this salesperson who's going in and trying to make their numbers, and he has this wise person that's, mentoring him through this process. And he learns through this journey about the more we give, if we focus on the giving, we receive so much more than if we just focus on what we're receiving. And it's in those moments that is, how do I act in service? How do I be for you, not for myself, but for you? It's hard because we're by nature selfish beings.
You think so?
So it is. Yeah. A little. Not you. I mean, not you. Not
of
you.
course. No, never.
No. It's that idea that's, how do I serve? How do I be the best for you so that then we all win in that context?
I think first to understand before being understood. That's the line.
There you are.
There it is. It came back. Yep. So you mentioned a little while ago talking about communicating externally versus internally. What does that actually mean?
A lot of companies focus on their external communication because they want to sell more products, services. That's how we get out to the world. Everybody needs to know about us. Sell. That's how we make money, revenue, provide livelihoods for all of our people and ourselves. I get it. It's a necessary thing. We all have to do it. And that is external communication, like this ability to, I'm just talking, from a corporate standpoint, that is, how do we communicate who we are to the world? Versus internal is, how do we communicate our value to our people? How do we keep the people that we have here so that we don't have constant turnover? That was something that we battled as a design agency. Is we would be working with clients and they would have a new VP of marketing come in like every year. And we're going, how are we supposed to have any consistency with what we're delivering when this person has a different vision than this person that has a different vision than this person? And they were all dysfunctional on the inside, and it created a lot of dysfunction on the outside. And this is, in theory, what I believe about us as individuals and as leaders, people that on the inside, we really need to be healthy, because if we're not, it's going to manifest itself externally in some way. We can usually cover it up. We can put on some facade. We can say cool words or whatever we want to do, like the word facade. And
facade.
Facade. Is that how you say it? Oh, I didn't know that's how you say it.
In Australia.
Wait, are you serious?
No.
Oh gosh. I was like, I just got my mind blown. Okay. I didn't know if it was like the whole like garage thing. I don't know. So
the Australian sarcasm, the American radar for Australian sarcasm is way off.
Gosh, man, like, I don't know. You're right. I need to learn your sarcasm.
Just
and what
assume
that level
at
is.
all times we're taking the piss. That's just the default state is taking the piss. And then every now and again we pepper some seriousness into it.
You should have just let me go, because when I go to Australia and work with a bunch of companies over there, because that's my dream, I'm going to say facade from now on.
And see what they say.
Let's see what they say.
Oh, I don't want to. I could never. I'm
going to say that. So back to what I was saying, Adam, is this idea that when we have this internal thing going on, it's only a matter of time before it's externally going to be manifest. The same principle happens with companies. Companies try to put lipstick on whatever dysfunction is happening on the inside by saying we're all this stuff on the outside. And then what happens? A global pandemic. And now all of a sudden you're being outed by all these people that are saying, yeah, you said we were this, but really when the pressure happens, when a global pandemic happens and you're all fighting for your lives and your jobs, you're really not that. And that's when your true character is revealed, is during stressful and hard times is when that's revealed.
So how does somebody work on their internal? How do they fix the problems?
You get to know yourself first.
And how do you do that?
Oh man, I'm trying not to pitch my stuff, Adam. I'm not trying not to. Okay, fine. Read my book, listen to my podcast, hire me as a coach.
Okay. So
those three things.
And then what happens? What happens in those three elements?
Here's the real element, right? Is that you need to get coaching of some kind. I don't even care if it's like super formal executive coaching or whatever that coaching is. And I'm not telling you to go out and hire a coach for whatever dollars that coach is. I'm saying that we invest in a lot of coaching early on in our childhood development. Teachers or coaches, musical instruments, sports, all through our lives until we get a career. And then we don't need coaches anymore. We might have a mentor. We may have somebody like a boss, somebody that shows us how to do certain things, but we don't have coaching anymore. And I don't know why. Professional athletes are the only ones that I really think are getting consistent daily by the hour coaching. Think of how many times a professional athlete is getting coached a day. It is just like by the end of the year, it's thousands of coaching touch points. And we as professionals in our careers of like corporate life or whatever we're doing, we don't get that. And we expect to be awesome.
So is there no way to do it internally once you've built your own internal foundation?
I think that it comes with reps and whatever practice you implement that helps you, whether it is like simple things like gratitude journals, if you feel that you have a scarcity mindset, or you feel that you are always trying to solve problems. It's this, first of all, personal self-awareness of people come to me and I immediately just start solving their problem when they don't want their problem solved. It's how do I learn to just shut up? And then how do I practice that over time? And then have my biggest ask is that you have an accountability partner. In my book, that's the first chapter of my book is I want you to go on this journey. It's 52 weeks of intentional practices of leadership. And it's short, bite-sized chunks. It's not a long thing that you're going to spend hours a week reading. It's like spend 5 to 10 minutes, punchy. The first principle is get an accountability partner. There was a study where they had two different groups of people look at a hill. The people that looked at it individually saw the hill to be 20% steeper than the people who looked at it as a group, with somebody standing next to them who was going to walk up that hill together with them. 20% steeper it looked when you looked at it by yourself versus somebody standing next to you who's going to climb it with you. That's the idea. Get an accountability partner, get somebody you can trust that will help you, that you can communicate with, check in with, and just kind of build each other up together.
How do you find an accountability partner? What makes for a good accountability partner?
You say, Adam.
Go be my accountability partner.
Right on, man. Right on. You did it. You did it. You have to have like-minded goals, right? You have to, if there's somebody, I'm not going to ask somebody to be my accountability partner that has no desire for personal growth, that is full of pride, full of arrogance, and full of not wanting to grow. They're like, I'm good. And you're like, okay, will you still be my accountability partner? No. I want you to find somebody that feels as enthusiastic about it as you, because here's what's going to happen. Strava, the company Strava, cycling, running app that uses it to track a lot of data. They have a ton of data from people all over the world. They have obviously see a huge spike at the beginning of the year of people logging on to Strava, people starting new exercise programs, cycling, running, at the gym, rowing, whatever it is. Big spike. Do you know what when they tracked the drop-off date, what's the biggest date for drop-off according to Strava?
Like 14th of Jan.
Second Friday. I don't know what it is about the second Friday. It's the second Friday of January. They see this huge
I was right.
You're pretty close, man. Let's just say 2 weeks. Yes, you're right, Adam. 2 weeks. There's a huge drop-off. Did that happen to you? Is that why you know? Did that happen to you?
No, I've just heard this before, and then I've heard something along that lines, and then I've assumed it would probably be 2 weeks based on how people operate. I've never understood. The point is we don't like being uncomfortable, and we don't like hard things all the time. Some of us will be like, I love a challenge. And you're like, yeah, you love a challenge for a little bit, but you don't love a challenge every day, every minute of your life. It gets exhausting, and you're not built for that. Our bodies and our brains are conditioned to preserve our lives. Our brains are built to not work too hard, to seek comfort, and to move away from discomfort. Right? You have a jacket on, maybe because it looks cool, but you also might be a little cooler temperature. I'm actually hot, to be honest. I
know. I was about to say, you're probably, so now you're seeking comfort and you're taking your jacket off. Our brains want to be comfortable. No, you fell right into my trap. The principle here is that we don't like to be uncomfortable. 2 weeks in, we start to go, this is hard. I don't know. That seems really difficult. That aspirational goal I had, I don't know if I can do that. It's just better, more comfortable if I live accidentally, because that's really easy. It's easy to be accidental, but accidental behavior leads to broken hearts, broken lives, broken communication patterns, broken eggs, right? You drop an egg, you don't drop it on purpose. It's an accident. So it breaks all over the place.
I've thrown some eggs at some buildings in my time.
Okay. I was going to say throwing eggs is intentional.
It's intentional.
Dropping eggs is what I'm talking about. We've all thrown some eggs at them. Whoops. Did I just throw that? No, I dropped it. Yeah. I dropped it on your house.
Horizontally dropped.
It's horizontally dropped. Intentional behavior is what's difficult. Intentionality is a lot easier when I have somebody with me to help hold me accountable. To say, hey, man, I noticed that you dropped off a little bit. What's going on? Hey, I'm struggling. Are you? Yeah, I am. It's much easier to struggle with somebody than it is to struggle by yourself. So, accountability partner, number one.
Okay. You're kind of hitting my my thought processes at the moment with all of this, and I'm thinking, shit, I need to find an accountability partner. Shit, I need to figure this out. So thank you.
I just complicated your whole life, didn't I?
I mean, hopefully,
I just made your life harder. I made your life hard, didn't I?
Short-term difficulty into long-term ease.
That's it. There's another quote in my book that says, shoes are cheaper than knees. And it's by this author, John Acuff, really great author. Read some of his books. He has a book called Finish, a book soundtracks. It's super great, easy read. He's a comedian, but he was telling the story about, he's a runner, and he is very frugal. So he doesn't like spending money on running shoes. Running shoes could be pretty expensive. So he's like, I'm just going to wear these things. And his wife looked at his shoes one day. It was like, John, your shoes are like torched. Like you have no tread. Like they're horrible. And he goes, I know, but like I'm getting my money's worth. They're like really expensive. I gotta go get to the fitting store. I gotta get it fitted and it takes time. And she goes, John, shoes are cheaper than knees. And he goes, oh, right. So how often are we our temporary pain and discomfort? We're in that mode. We don't want the temporary pain and discomfort of buying new shoes, of having to spend the extra money on that. But in the long term, it's going to be a lot more beneficial than getting knee replacements later on.
I actually have barefoot shoes, so this kind of throws this idea out the window.
No, you're one of those?
I'm one of those. I am one of those. You'll see.
Do you run in the desert barefoot? That's what I want to know.
That would be actually kind of fun. Think about it.
You're nuts, man. I can barely walk at the beach in bare feet. I'm like,
so this is the challenge. You got to get those feet strong.
You are raw, man. You are raw. I don't know. Do you only eat meat too?
This new thing, I did it for a month. Just to test it.
I knew it.
That was about a year before going vegan for a month. So I'm not necessarily locked into anything. I'm just curious.
Okay. That's good. Curiosity. You can speak to a lot of different people now. You have a vegan on the show, you're good. Yeah. You have somebody who's a carnivore, like straight up all the time, you're good. You can you're a chameleon, man.
That's I mean, I resonated with what you were saying before, where you're kind of just exploring a lot of things, because I'm much the same, but I'm noticing I haven't found the thing that ties it all together yet. You know, I'm just kind of wondering.
Just keep wondering, man. Keep wondering. Soon the dots will start connecting and you'll be like, that's what it is.
It could be this.
Maybe it's this conversation right now. It's this. There's I heard somebody talk about this idea of purpose and how we struggle a lot through our lives with purpose, and why am I here, and what am I doing, and what's the impact I have on the world, and what are all these jobs I keep getting, and all these things I keep pursuing, and I don't know where I'm going. And it was really interesting. This person brought up a point. He said, think of all the people on the planet that have had like a giant monumental historical impact on the world and humanity as a whole. Usually it's not 25-year-olds. Usually it's not 35-year-olds. Usually it's people at the age of like 55 to 60 is when they've really come into their own and they've done something and everybody's going, that's going to change the world. You know? So
do you listen to the Founders podcast by any chance?
No, but I've heard about it.
Oh my God. You need to start today. It is phenomenal. I just listened to a couple of episodes, and one of them was about Warren Buffett, and they mentioned that 99% of his net worth came after the age of 50 or 60. So that's the first one. And then I was just listening to the one about James Dyson, the founder of Dyson, and he was explaining his story. He was 32. He just got his business that he had fell over. He had a wife, kids, and just had no idea where things were going. And, 32, 33, had no money, had nothing. And then, 10, 15 years later, he builds Dyson, and now he's a 100% owner of that company. It makes $1 billion a year in profit, and he's just living his life. So
that's it.
Yeah.
Slow down, Adam. Slow down. It'll come, man. It'll come. We all come into it, and it all works out. It all works out.
It's that's a big thing. I've been wanting to run fast all the time, and I've begun to trip. I've noticed, because I'm running too fast. My my mortgage broker is a very random story, but my mortgage broker is a very, very smart guy. And I was doing pretty well when I was a bit younger. It's kind of leveled off at the moment as I'm moving into different directions. But earlier on, I was, investing and I was buying property and this and that. And he looks at me and he kept saying the same thing over and over again. And I didn't really listen to him, but I should have. He said, don't run because you'll trip, just walk fast. And I didn't listen.
You didn't. You keep, it's those, you keep stubbing your toe because you don't have like shoes on.
They're barefoot shoes.
Your barefoot shoes. There's another concept in John's book that he writes about, it's about goal setting and things like that, is that we always want to move so fast. And it's the whole principle of the tortoise and the hare. Do y'all have that story in Australia?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just checking.
The turtle and the rabbit.
The turtle and the rabbit, tortoise and hare. We're very sophisticated in America. That's how we do things. So yeah, it's this whole principle that we all want to run so fast. We all want to get to the finish line. We want to just blaze it. But what happens is that we start off so fast and we fall asleep halfway through. And then we get up and we run fast again and then we fall asleep. And we get up and we run fast and we fall asleep. And it's just this perpetual thing of consistency is king. If we can remain consistent, and this is from my brand strategy days too, consistent brand communication is where it's going to happen. If I'm changing my brand message every day as a company, nothing's going to stick. Nobody's going to remember me. It leads to confusion and nobody knows what to do. Consistency in communication, consistency in how I show up to the world has to be consistent, right? Am I consistently showing up like a jerk? No surprise that people are not going to want to work with me. Consistently show up this way, it'll happen, right? So it's the little millions of micro moments that is going to build our character over time. And that's, again, what my book is built on, is this idea of like consistent small actions throughout the year are going to do more for you than reading one life-changing book in a week, right? I mean, if it's life-changing, I guess
what if it's consistent life-changing books every week?
Oh, that's good. I don't know. I need that book list. Please hook me up. And the book has to be short.
Yeah, of course.
So there's that caveat
too.
Yeah. So. Okay. So there's that caveat too. But yeah, this idea, the millions of micro moments is where real change happens. It's not the mega moments generally in life. Consistency over time.
Do you know the concept Kaizen?
Kaizen?
Yeah. It's a Japanese concept of this exact thing.
Enlighten me. I learned so much from you. Come on.
I got a tattoo of it. I liked it that much. It's like this little thing here.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I just wanted a new tattoo and I like Japanese things. So I was like, this will do.
I don't know what it means. I just want it. No, tell me, man, you got to brand it on your body. So tell me what it means.
It just means it's this idea of a small continual improvement over a long period of time creates big change. Yeah, Kaizen. And I love that because
I just didn't know if you were saying cousin in an Australian accent.
Yeah, my cousins.
No, Kaizen. Got you. Yeah. Keep going. So why that concept though? Why is that so impactful for you?
Well, I mean, just like you're saying, it's those little things done over a long period of time that make the difference. You can go to the gym once and for 8 hours, it's going to do nothing, but you can go 1 hour, 1 hour a day for 8 days. And it's going to have more of a long-term impact.
You'll be sore after that 8-hour session, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
That's about it though.
Yeah. It's work and recovery, and just slowly going up.
That's it. You got it.
An idea that just floated into my head before when you spoke about the tortoise and the hare and tying it into intentionality. I think, and this is just me spitballing from my experience, that you want to run really fast when you don't really know where you're going. But But if you're a lot more intentional with your decision making and what you want to do, there's a bit more peace to the direction you're going, and there's a bit more like, all right, I'm up, I'm moving, I'm getting it done. Would you resonate with that at all, or what are your thoughts?
100%. There was a guest on my show, Dave Anderson, who actually he's featured in the book as well. He says we mistake motion for progress and direction for speed. And you can ask any pilot that if they're 1% off their course when they start flying, they're going to end up in a very different spot by the time they get, 3 hours out.
Unless it's like 10-minute flight. Hello.
They'll end up in a slightly different spot. Correct. But that's the thing is like we take little steps in the wrong direction. We don't notice it as much. So we think that we're doing something. We think, hey, this is better than nothing. I'm moving. But the problem is we get so comfortable and so used to those little steps that we're taking in the wrong direction because they're comfortable and easier, that by the time we get a mile or two or 500 down the road, kilometer.
Yeah, for those playing at home, it's about a third. I don't even know, actually. I should know this. Or a sixth. I don't know. 500 miles, about 300 kilometers. No, 800 kilometers.
Yeah, something like that. That by the time you've hit that, it's too late, right? It's just like, oh gosh, now we got to backtrack. Now we got to change course. Now we got to
just going to keep going.
So
and eventually get to the other side of the world.
That's it. That's right. Well, not if you believe the world's flat, though. What about those people?
About that.
That whole theory just went out the window, Adam. The whole thing here is that we think that we're doing something and it could be the wrong thing. So why not just be intentional about doing the right thing the first time instead of taking the easy route, doing the wrong thing, and then ending up in the wrong place?
I don't know if there's a problem with doing the wrong thing. It's just doing the wrong thing for too long.
Okay. Amen. I got you.
Because you got to, we're constantly fucking up as humans. It's like our default state.
100%.
It's like what we're good at. But the fuck up, iteration, improve, fuck up, iteration, improve. But you have to kind of create that feedback loop as quickly as possible. Otherwise it gets just fuck up.
So here's the thing I'll say with that is that I agree. I think that understanding your destination, understanding your method of getting there is what's important. That is going to create the trajectory of getting there. That's the intentionality I think I'm talking about. That is the first right step to take, is setting the goal, setting where we're trying to go, some kind of aspiration and idea, because we are going to trip along the way. We can lose the battle of the day as long as we're going to win the war. Like, I'm okay with losing the battle of the day. I'm not going to get too concerned about it as long as I know where we're going and that we're still going to win the war, right? At the end of the day. I think that's the tripping is all part of it. And I think that's part of the growth journey that we all need to be on. It's going to happen.
Have you watched Ray Dalio's videos that he made on this topic? Oh, mate, you got to get around them. Let me find them.
Oh my gosh. You're giving me so much stuff to read and watch, man. I'm going to be like up until midnight.
This guy is, when he went through his phase of, where is it? Principles by Ray Dalio. Let me find it. Principles of Life, I think it is. Yeah, Principles for Success by Ray Dalio in 30 minutes. It's really, really good. And he talks about a lot of this. He's a very smart guy, that one. So how do you become intentional?
You just do it, Adam.
How do you do it?
Just do it. You just do it.
What does that mean?
We are very accidental human beings. By default, we're accidental. It's just the way we are. It's very easy to eat whatever I want and to sleep as long as I want, or to not communicate a certain way or to communicate a certain way. It's just easy just to not have to think about it and just to act. But in accidental behavior leads to accidental results. So we don't know what's going to happen. Intentionality, and I will say it's impossible to be intentional all the time. It's just not, it's too exhausting for us mentally and emotionally and physically. We just can't do it all the time. But I think it's part of our development. And what I encourage people to do is create triggers or markers in your life for intentional acts. So, for example, when I was running my agency, as another one of my tendencies of knowing myself better so I could lead myself better is I did not celebrate the wins very often. I was always focused on what could be better. And I know a lot of people resonate with this. That's great that 90% of that went awesomely, but what about the 10%? What about the stuff how are we going to make that better? How are we going to smooth this over better next time, or do this next time? Or, and everybody's like, Scott, can we just take a minute to celebrate this thing? I'm like, yeah, but it's done. Why do we need, it's done. We got to move forward into how are we going to fix this thing? And so what I ended up doing was intentional. I said, every Friday morning at 9:00, I'm going to put a calendar invite, and it's going to be called Win of the Week. So on Friday mornings at 9:00, it caused me to reflect, because if I was accidental, I wouldn't have done that. I would have just gone on and not celebrated anything very often. If I put that calendar invite, then I go, oh, there it is. That's that marker. I need to think, what went well this week? What do I need to celebrate? Who do I need to celebrate? And put hashtag Win of the Week in Slack. And I said, hashtag Win of the Week. Liz, I think you did an amazing job on that presentation you put together. I love the way you, I celebrate something. I wouldn't naturally do that all the time as much as I probably needed to for my people. That intentional act is what helped me. So set up triggers and markers for you to be able to be more intentional. Another one, I'll give you an example. My office in my house is on one side of my garage, whatever you say over there, and the kitchen, right? I have to walk past my garage door to get to my kitchen. That is a marker for me to remember to go outside. Because if I don't do that, I won't go outside. Sometimes I'll go, oh my gosh, it's 7:00 at night and I haven't been outside yet. This is what it looks like. That's interesting. So I forget. In our pandemic driven work from home days, we forget to go outside. So that intentional act has created, that healthy habit for me. So it's been good.
So, but I think we need to dig in a bit further. So, why are you going outside? Why is it intentional to go outside? How do you get to the core elements of intentionality to then make those decisions?
You figure out where you're experiencing pain and where those things are manifesting themselves. If I'm manifesting, if stress is coming up, if this, I don't know, I'm not getting enough activity. My watch is telling me that I need to actually stand up, things like that constantly over and over and over again. If I'm not just feeling great, I'm like, what do I need? What do I enjoy? Well, I like being outside. I like getting air. I like walking around and just having my internal thoughts. I do a lot of coaching. I do a lot of talking and speaking. And I like to just be able to recharge as someone who tends to be more introverted. I need that processing internal time. So being outside, walking helps me do that. And so I noticed that and then said, how am I going to make that happen? This is how I'm going to make that happen, because I'm noticing I'm not getting enough of that. So if you tend to eat in front of your computer all the time, you don't take lunch breaks, but you're noticing that you're not eating the right stuff, or that you're not getting enough downtime to decompress or something. Well, there's probably a reason for that. Check out the habits that you're building in. You get good at what you get good at the things you practice. If I practice unhealthy behavior, I'm going to get good at those things. And I think it's just, that's that process of self-discovery.
Okay. So, and from your experience, how have you developed that process of self-discovery?
It comes with the desire first. Some people just don't know what they don't know. So I think there's that element, but I think you've got to be able to look for clues in your life. And it is at times when you're experiencing pain somewhere in our lives that we go, this isn't good anymore. So I can live with the discomfort of my current situation, or I can live with the discomfort of change. So if I want something better, then I'm going to have to change something. And that's when that trigger starts. So usually it's pain that we're more motivated to change something rather than gain. Pain is a better motivator, they have found, than the aspect of gaining something. So those are usually the two aspects that will trigger that desire to want to know more, want to self-discover more. What's going on with me? What do I need to change? How can I be more intentional about that?
Okay. So that's intentionality. Sounds like it's so understanding yourself, living more intentionally. What else is required on the step to, say, unlock people?
I think it's owning it after you discover it. Because I can own it. I mean, I can discover something all day, but if I just don't own it, then there's a gap.
So how do you own it? How do you own these issues?
I think it just comes with humility. I think it comes with the desire to be better. I think it's the desire to want to grow. People that don't, that discover something, but are insecure, prideful, arrogant, are not going to want to do anything with it. People that are more secure, humble, confident, are going to want to take that and do something with it. Usually it's maybe because I've hurt somebody in my life. Maybe it's because I've hurt myself. Maybe it's because I've lost a job. Maybe it's because something else has happened that again has created some pain in my life. And then, so once I discover it, owning it is going to be a really big piece of that. Accepting it, owning it. And then how do I put intentional behaviors in place so that I can make sure I get better at this thing? And I don't want you to focus only on the things that you suck at. Okay. Because a lot of us get in that trap too of, no, I just want to work on the things I'm horrible at. And I say, that's great. We all need to do that. But if we only focus 100% of our time on the things we suck at, then we don't ever really magnify the things that we're awesome at. We just naturally just kind of do those things. But you will be more productive, more effective if you do the things you're great at most of the time. And then work on the things a little bit of the time that you're not so great at. We're always going to need to do those things. So do what?
Or outsource them.
Outsource. Yes. Outsource. So here's a good principle for that I coach my teachers, I coach my clients on. They are teachers to me. That's why I said that. Wasn't that sweet?
I love that.
Yeah, I know you do. I coach my clients. I say, write your name with your dominant hand. Everybody writes their dominant hand. Write your name with your non-dominant hand. They're like, okay. They write it. Takes a few more seconds. Say, what was that like? They say, it was tough. It was a struggle. I had to think more about it. It was harder. It just took more time. It's sloppier. And I'm like, okay, do you think you should work 100% of your job should be now just doing everything with your left hand for the rest of your career so you get better at it? No, that's stupid. Why would anybody do that? Okay. So don't focus so much on your left hand. If that is your non-dominant hand, like practice at times, get better at it. If you ever need to do it, maybe you break your right hand. Maybe you can't use it for some reason. You use your left hand. It'd be great to be able to use it at some point in time. things like this in sports. There's things like this in all types of things. Music. We got to work on that other side, but let's hone in on the things that we're really good at. So own the things that you're not great at, but really own the things that you are dynamite at, and live those things and use them to build a brand that's worth following.
You, it sounds like a lot of self-reflection is required to get to this point.
There is. Do you like self-reflection, Adam?
It's probably a, what's the right word I'm looking for here? It's like a bit of porn to me. Like, do we self-reflect? It's probably too much.
Okay.
Too much self-reflection.
Too much self-reflection.
Not enough doing.
Okay. I got you.
That's the challenge. But you mentioned that it's, it's a very important part. Like, how has it led to breakthroughs in your professional and personal life?
So in my own or other people?
Yours, yeah.
Well, in my own, it has completely transformed my marriage.
Wow.
Not that my marriage was broken before or anything with my kids. Like, I have great relationships. My wife and I are super awesome, and my kids are super awesome. But it has gone from accidental parenting, accidental marital relationship, to intentional. My wife and I are very both driven to self-improvement and developing ourselves and be the best that we can be for each other so that we can show up well for our kids as well. But that has transformed the way I communicate now. My ability to not put up walls and to notice when I'm putting up walls is so much healthier than having those walls up and just keeping them up and then blaming everybody else for everything, blaming my kids and blaming my wife, and nobody gets me. And you just didn't understand what I was saying. This is all on you. But once I discover and go, oh, it's that thing I do. Oh, I got to eat that, Now there's two sides to every story, right? But for me to own my side is really important. Lowers my wall of self-preservation, lowers her wall of self-preservation. That's where true influence and impact is created in any relationship, professional, personal. Lower that wall. That's when I can see you. I see you for who you are, and I value that, and I want you to keep being that, but value me for who I am as well. Like, I think that is where it's really just elevated a lot for me.
And then in your professional life?
There's just been these little aha moments. And that's what I really love doing, is creating, again, the little micro aha moments throughout a coaching journey. I don't do usually just like one hit inspirational things. I like going to the gym often, and I like my clients to go to the gym often. And so I require that because we have these small little aha moments that are just like, oh, it's that. It's the, oh, I didn't think about that. Or that makes sense now. Or, oh, that goes back to when I was 18 and this happened. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because I'm not a therapist. So let's distinguish between the two. I'm not a therapist.
It's all a little bit of therapy though, right?
Well, if you want to call it that, we call it coaching. Therapy. We call it coaching so I don't get sued. But that's kind of what it is. Okay.
It's like a little bit of
it's a little bit of that. But people make these connections and they go, oh, so it's those aha moments. And then when you see somebody's life change, so usually always I'm doing this in a professional sense. People, their companies hire me. I come in and do these things. And then these people have transformational moments in their personal life. Like this one woman, she would get up in the morning. She's a single mom. She had a son who's about 9 years old. And she got up in the morning. The first thing she would do is check her email, respond to the emails that came overnight, because she knew she was going to have to get him ready, take him to school, and then get to work. She would try to bust out some stuff before he got up. Then what would happen inevitably is that she would get on phone calls that early in the morning. He would end up getting himself ready for school. She was working, trying to bust some stuff out, and she was consistently late dropping him off for school. She said this was like she was kind of ashamed of it. It was kind of like, it's this thing I do. I drop my kid off at late for school all the time. And I'm like, well, why you like, what's going on with that? So she tells me what she's doing. That is accidental reactive behavior. And I said, let's be more intentional about what you're doing. Let's understand the tendency first. Her tendency was to please, to make sure that her boss knew that she was always on it, to make sure that she was always serving everybody else, but she was forgetting herself in a relationship with her son. And he was always late. Well, so the thing she did is she just changed something. She said, 30 minutes, I'm not going to check my phone. It's what we call gear 1 time or gear 2 time. We have 5 gears. Gear 1, gear 2 are more personal, reflective time or connection time. Gear 5 is like hunker down, full throttle, like focus. Nothing's going to bother me. I'm getting this thing. So she said gear 1, gear 2 time. She started doing that. Her son noticed and said, hey, Mom, I want to do that with you. And she goes, whoa, okay. So now he gets up at 6 a.m. with her and they have reflection time, meditation time. They read in their Bible together and they do these things together. They started, she said, well, we don't do the meditation anymore. Now we're doing more like yoga stuff in the mornings together. It's like, what? And this has transformed her life. That simple concept was like, when I heard that, that's what I'm talking about. When I hear that somebody's made a change in their life like that, I go, you can be as good as you want at spreadsheets, but when you start changing your life and the life of your son, that's true impact. That's awesome.
I love that. That's a brilliant story. It's those, and then how does that impact the child, and then how does that impact their children? And then what is that flow on effect? I always wonder.
It's huge. It's huge for sure.
It's huge. I'm conscious of your time. So why don't we jump into a bit of a different gear on the questions and go through some like rapid fires of just some general ideas and principles. Sound okay?
Okay. Let's see what happens. I'm crossing my fingers. I'm going to be able to give you something good and not stupid and boring.
That's all right.
Let's do it.
We can all be stupid and boring sometimes. Don't worry about it. It's you got to weed through the stupid and boring to get to the little nuggets of. That's it.
I say, what we say here in the South and Joy's like, there's gold in them there hills. We just need to dig it out. Like, it's in there. Just dig it. Dig it. Okay, let's go.
All right. What's been your favorite failure?
Parenting.
How so?
Because I fail at it all the time. And so that's that thing. It's like, I know what my end goal is, back to our earlier conversation, but I do make a trip and I trip and I trip. And there's a billion parenting books, like there's a billion leadership books. But everybody's just trying to figure it out. And I think that failure is the most beautiful, rewarding thing ever. Consistent.
As long as you get up and go again.
You got to, but I think that as one of my guests said, Dov Barron, he had a really interesting perspective on this. He said, resiliency and the way we think about it's a bunch of crap, like getting up, getting back up again, over and over and over again. You're just an idiot. Like when you get knocked down, stay down for good. Stay down. And not for good. Not for good. If you get knocked down, you're just weak and you don't need to be here anyway. No. If you get knocked down, pause for a minute, respond. I say respond instead of react. We get down, we bounce back up. Get down, bounce back up. But why are we bouncing back up? And why did we get knocked down in the first place? That's intentional resiliency is what I'll say. So keep it getting back up, but understand why you got knocked down in the first place.
It's that loop. It's that improvement loop.
It's a loop. Improvement loop. I love it.
What advice would you give yourself from 10 years ago?
That it all works out. I have a lot of, I've gone through as an entrepreneur and you'll know this. It's like, yes, or like, oh, it's horrible. Yes. No, it sucks. Like
there's nothing in the middle.
We desire, we're like, why can't it just be even Steven? Like, why can't it just be easy and just kind of like fluctuate in the middle? Why can't it be that? I don't know, but it works out. Like when it's down in the gutter, I'm just thinking doom and gloom, scarcity. I don't know how we're going to get out of this. I don't know what's going to happen. I might as well just go get a job, whatever. And then I'm like, oh, it actually worked out. So it's live in those moments of stress, embrace them, learn from them, understand what they're trying to teach you, and move out of it. Right? Don't wallow in it. It's not good for wallowing in. Move out.
I swear there's only two states in business. It's just like elation and dread. There's nothing in between.
No, it's horrible.
Like,
it's horrible.
It's like ones and zeros. Oh my Lord.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like, oh my gosh, can somebody just like be even? That's where I am in my relationship. My wife, I said, what do you value about me? And she goes, you're just so consistent. You're just like even. So, cause she's like we'll get in the car. And I always used to make fun of her when we were first dating and stuff, because she would get in the car and if it was hot outside, slam the AC, like all the way over, 100%, full blast. And I'm going, the car's not even like, AC's not even kicking yet. Like just give it a minute, Or it was like, if it was cold outside, full heat, blasting. Hold on, it's just blowing cold air. Like, wait a second, like let the car hit. So I'm just like, I'm this like, even Steven, and she's like, so she's the entrepreneur of our lives. And I'm trying to
just keep chip along. I love it.
Yeah, that's it.
What challenge would have you overcame that you never thought you would?
I think it is parenting. I know it's a long thought because I was thinking, gosh, it's been like some challenges where I've told my wife, I don't know if I've really been challenged in my life. And I don't know, like when I look at other people's challenges and I go, oh my gosh, that's crazy. I mean, we all have our challenges. We all have them. And I've had some pretty rough things happen, I guess, in my life. We all have. And I sit there and go, like, I don't know if I've really had anything huge that like transformed everything about me. I've had some pivotal moments where things were really hard and then something happened and it put me in check. But I don't know. I think it's more along those lines. Sorry, I can't give you a really profound answer, but
that's okay.
I live through everybody else's pain and moments and I go, that's amazing what you just did. So
yeah, some people are pretty crazy. Some of the stuff that people go through and get through, it's insane. The resilience of humans when they're in survival mode is quite miraculous, right?
It is. I think sometimes about how frail the human body is and how interesting it is that we've got all these tiny, like little things in us that make us work. One tiny little thing can go wrong and we'll just die. And I'm going, it could happen at any time to anybody. Doesn't matter how rich you are, how powerful you are, how poor you are, how whatever you are, like it'll just happen. I'm like, that is how frail we are. If you think about it that way, but then you think about how we're still in existence and how much people go through and how much they endure. And you're like, wow, we are pretty resilient.
Yeah. We're very adaptable.
We can bounce, at times, from some of the hardest stuff. And I think that's pretty powerful to think about.
That's what I really noticed with the pandemic was how adaptable we are as a species. And for all our fighting and arguments and different sides of the political spectrum and all these different opinions on the world, when shit is really hitting the fan, we seem to rally pretty well. like we rally.
We did.
And we keep rallying.
We did. It's going to create tribes. We saw a lot of division, but we saw a lot of unity and rallying too that you would never see. So you're going to find what you want to find. If you look for it, you'll find it. And if you look for camaraderie, you'll find it. And I think a lot of people did in that time. If you look for divisiveness and anger, you'll find it. So there's parts there too.
So what is the most impactful podcast or book that you've read or listened to and why?
I would have to I don't know, like that's a tough one. I think that when I think back to
Does something pop up? Because I've got one. I know one very clearly for sure. Like,
you do?
Is there something?
Tell me. No, I don't have one right off the bat. I have a few that I could throw out that I want to throw out, but go ahead.
Well, you go first and then I'll go.
No. This is your show. I want to hear yours.
Listeners have heard my shit way too much.
Okay. But I haven't. This is for me.
All right. So there's one podcast by a guy called Naval Ravikant. Do you know who he is? It's an amalgamation of his tweets on how to get rich without getting lucky. And it is one of the most mind-blowing things I've ever listened to the point where I've listened to it about 10 times. And I've shared it with so many people.
Wow.
Mind blowing. It's one of the most clearest thinking things I've ever heard. And it goes for 4 hours. It's a whole thing. And then the second book that blew my mind very recently was a book called The Way of the Superior Man by David Dieter. It basically talks about masculinity and how to be a man and how to understand women and the feminine and all these different elements of the world. Again, mind-blowing. The third one would be Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. Just getting an understanding of the human experience and the human history and realizing things like all we've been doing since we begun was fight. We've just fought each other forever. It's just been like nothing new. But then also we are, we're adaptable and we survive and we grow, and it's just very, very, very cool. So they're my probably three off the top of my head. So.
Wow. Okay. I don't know if I can compete with that.
You don't have to compete. It's not a competition.
This is a competition, Adam. This is a competition. So one of them that we used to read to my kids a lot was this book called What to Do with an Idea. Mm-hmm. It's this one. What do you do with an idea? And it's really simple. But it's got this like really kind of cool illustration style in it. That's pretty nice. Mm-hmm. But it's all about what happens with our ideas if we don't nurture them, and what do we do? What can they become? And its potential. And that is what I think life is really about, is unlocking that potential, unlocking who we are. And if we don't do that, we're missing out on something. And if we can ingrain that in our kids early on, that your ideas are things that can change the world, literally, that's power. Mm. There's so much power in that. So I think that that's awesome. There's another book that Marty Neumeier is a guy that's very influential in the brand strategy space. And there's a book that's called Brand Gap. It's really cool, like from a design standpoint, like just how he uses, it's black and white, but it uses all these different, the type is really big. You can read this book in like 45 minutes. But the way he lays it out and the structure of how he builds his books and his thinking and his thought process is so matter of fact and just makes you think a bit differently. So the Brand Gap is really good. He has another one called Zag that's really good too. His whole series of books are really punchy, really, really good. So those are the ones I would kind of think. And then the last one I would say is The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek.
I love Simon Sinek. He's great.
Infinite Game was like, well, I don't really know what this is going to be about. And because he usually has, like leaders eat last and things like that. It's like pretty leadership focused. But as Infinite Game is this whole mindset, it's challenging the idea that you can win at business. Like you can win. It's like, and so many companies have this mentality of win the quarter, win the week, win the year, beat our competition, but nobody wins. Like you just keep going. It's an infinite game. And until you have that mindset, you're going to be finite in your thinking and you're going to be finite in the way you run your business. And so that was super eye-opening for me and something I've tried to instill with a lot of my clients. I've
written those two down, so I'll give them a read at some point. Love it. If you could do only one tourist activity before you died, what would it be? You could have already done it.
tourist activity, I've lived in Switzerland for a couple of years, and I did go back there this summer. I took my kids, and it was amazing. Like, I love that country. I love the people. I love the language. I love the food. It's just, I love everything about it. So that's one I've already done. One that I would like to do. So I like cruises. I would love to take a cruise. And I saw this in a brochure thing my parents had, a map thing for a cruise that goes from like the top end of North America all the way down to Antarctica. So it goes all the way down the coast, all the way down. Wow. I think it's like a month-long cruise or something like that, all the way down. I would like to do that in Europe, though. I would like to go like around the coast of Europe and all the way down Africa and down to like, I don't know if that exists, but that would be amazing. That would be awesome. I should. I'm going to start that with my desert Airbnb business, and we're going to be flying, man. We're going to be flying.
I love it.
So that's it. That's what I want.
Brilliant. If you could only recommend one book for somebody to read for their whole lifetime, what would it be?
Their whole lifetime?
That's it. Only one thing.
Oh, that's a tough one. I would say something spiritual. I don't know what it is. I don't know what your spiritual thing revolves around or who that is or what that is. But to be in touch spiritually with whoever you are and what you are is going to add so much more substance to your life, because things are temporal. We're all temporal. And without that higher level of focus and goal and what are we doing and where are we going and what does it mean? And, some people may be like, I don't know. I don't really care. I just go through and I just do my thing. And I'm like,
they get to the end of their life and they go,
cool.
Fuck.
Or they get to the end of their life and they're laughing at all the other people who did worry about it their whole life.
Doubt it.
So there's that aspect, but I would say pick up that spiritual thing for whatever it is for you and embrace it and live it and multiply it throughout, because that's what's going to make humanity better.
Well, it's if you've got a match, like a flame, it doesn't cost you anything to pass that flame on to somebody else. That's how I think about it.
That's it. It's a lot more effort to light it up myself than it is to just pass it. Yeah. So, and where there is light, there is no darkness, right, Adam?
Well, there's shadows, but
oh, shadows.
Dang shadows. There's two books.
Dang shadows.
There's two books that are popping into my mind for this space. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Have you heard of that? It's a very good book. Nope. Very, very good book. And then The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware.
Okay. I have so many resources from you.
I would love to hear what
this is insane. You're
Let's
so
resourceful.
Doing this
stuff. I'd love
You're
to hear.
So resourceful.
Provide me some feedback.
I love it.
If you actually listen to or read any of these,
I will. No, dude, I'm totally going to. I'm totally going to. No, I appreciate it. I value this insight. When people have something they can share, there's so much stuff out there. So when I hear referrals from things, I just order it immediately. I don't get to it immediately, but I've got my stack of books and podcasts, and I just go through them as I get them.
So my final question for you for the day or evening for you is a nice, simple one. What do you think the why of all of this is? What is the meaning of life?
I think it's permission.
What does that mean?
I think it's permission. Like I said earlier on, permission to be me, because as soon as I don't feel that I have that permission, I start to be something else or somebody else. And that causes anxiety, stress, depression, and all types of things that we don't need more of in this life. Permission, when I give you permission, if I give you that, that is freeing. That is liberation for you. If I give you that permission, because now you don't feel the pressure. I think it's permission to share ideas. It's permission to live life and just forget the oughts and shoulds and just to have permission, not to be a jerk, but to try, right? And to do those things. I think that's the opportunity that we have to just be that and do that and give that gift to others is going to be empowering and liberate all of us.
So the meaning of life is if I'm going to distill this, is to find who you are and then share with the world.
I think that's part of it. I think that's the first part. Be who I am. Know, love, lead, right? Know myself. Love who I am. Embrace it. Own it. Share it. Like you said, that's where the lead intentionally. How do I lead myself well? Through actions. Part of that leadership, of personal leadership and others' leadership, is that permission, giving people permission. Now I have permission to be me because I know who I am. I'm starting to know who I am. I'm on to give that to you. I've experienced the gift. Now I'm going to pass it to you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Skot. I appreciate your time.
Dude, this was good. You're fun. You got some good questions. I enjoy the show. We cracked it up a little bit. Some people probably drifted a little during the middle of the show. That's okay.
It's all right. We bring them back.
Drift. Bring them back. So thanks, Adam. I really appreciate being on the show, man. And if I can do anything else to serve you or your audience, please let me know.
Love it. Sounds good.